I'd now like to invite up on the stage Marco Barth. Marco is the co-founder and COO of PropertyScout here in Thailand. And he's going to talk about the future is now, leveraging data, collaboration and AI to power 35 billion real estate transactions in Thailand. So thank you very much, Marco.
Thank you very much. Let's go. Good. So for the people in the room who don't know me, Marco, when I'm not entertaining my two young kids, I'm a co-founder of PropertyScout, and I want to use the next 20 minutes to give a quick perspective on the Thai market. We pieced together, some data you can find from the REIC and other sources to explain a bit how the market works. And then I want to give some examples and use cases that we believe are really important to power real estate transactions in this market. And they will focus on three topics. One is properties and data. Second thing is how we empower collaboration between agents. And thirdly, it'll be about what we do with AI, of course, as you might have guessed. Quick look at what is PropertyScout doing. A lot of the words have also been used by other players in the room already. So we are building an end-to-end real estate transaction platform, meaning we're not a classifieds portal, but we fully agree that in Southeast Asia, you actually need to do the transaction to deliver not only monetary value, but also to make a difference for the users. Right? Finding properties is easy, but actually renting or buying a home is a pretty painful process. So end-to-end real estate transaction platform. The goal is to automate 80% of the transaction. The perspective is shared with what has been said today, is that a pure agent business is not very inspiring, right? It's about how do you automate time-wasting tasks and make sure that agents are super productive and make their clients happy. And last but not least, that's really the focal point for us. How can we make the whole journey of buying or renting a real estate trusted and seamless? Like one of the starting points of the company was my co-founder Mari, who had the initial idea, right, asking, booking a hotel room is so easy, right? You go to a platform, you see the available inventory, you do the transaction, no worries. Why is renting a room for a year so different? All of the inventory sucks, agents are sometimes good, sometimes bad. You have bespoke contracts, it's just a big hassle. Why can't we make this easier? And I think that sums it up quite nicely. We founded the company in 2020. We've raised 10 million in venture funding so far. We've grown to about 5,000 transactions annually based on the current run rate. And we have about 500 exclusive agents under the PropertyScout brand helping people to rent or buy property. We also have about 6,000 agents using our platform to partner with our exclusive agents to close property transactions, either by providing properties to our agents or by coming with clients and requesting to partner on properties that we have acquired from landlords. And last but not least, one thing that makes us quite happy is that I think we are on a good track to deliver a good user experience. If you measure the amount of reviews and the average ratings that we're getting, we have more than 700 reviews with 4.7 average ratings, meaning there's a lot of work to do. But I think we're on the right track to deliver great transactions in a market that's relatively immature and still developing. So let's have a look at Thailand, right? So other than being a great destination for property portal watch conferences and chilling at the beach, the Thailand real estate market is actually one of the largest in Southeast Asia. As I said, right, there is no one clear, reliable source in Thailand, but we pieced together information from the Real Estate Information Center and a few others. And the rough size of sales transactions in resale, sales transactions in primary, rental transactions is about $35 billion, which is making it one of the biggest in Southeast Asia. The agent landscape is highly fragmented. I'll have one or two numbers on that later. And it's basically impossible to find reliable estimates, but what most sources say is like a consensus number of around 30,000, some say 50,000 agents. Most of them are unorganized, freelancers or small mom and pop shop agents. So a very, informal, immature agent landscape. How is this value and the activity spread across Thailand? So as you would have guessed, the biggest transaction value is concentrated in Bangkok metropolitan area, so basically the Bangkok CBD. Plus there's a good contribution of a few very well-known beach destinations. Phuket, Hua Hin, Pattaya, and Samui, they make up in total 14%. So in total, you can say that roughly about half of all of the real estate transaction value in Thailand, and this is only referring to resale transaction, is concentrated in Bangkok metropolitan areas and beach destinations. So that's great, and that's a great place to start. But to really transform the market and be a very, very strong brand in Thailand, you got to think about the other 50% of the geographies that are out there, which are both areas surrounding Bangkok, we call it Bangkok vicinities, and the rest of Thailand, second-tier cities like Khon Kaen that most people haven't heard about. There's relevant transaction volumes happening there. And one area of the market that's also quite important is lower value transactions. Most players, they start out focusing on the easy market, which is higher value transactions and sales transactions, but a big chunk of the value lies in transactions below $300 in rental and below $100,000 in sales. And the key question is, how can you set up a system that allows you to effectively service these? Because there's both a lot of money to be made and a lot of buyers and tenants to be made happy. Looking at the agents' commissions, there is about $1 billion, probably a little bit more, that agents make in Thailand. And that includes, as I said, both resale transactions. It includes primary transactions, which, as Malcolm said, are still predominantly done by developers themselves without involvement in agents, but agents do a part of that. And last but not least, rental transactions, which is a relevant market because Thailand is a renting nation, and the share of agent transactions is quite high there, plus a few land sales deals here and there. So overall, we're quite confident to say that agents are making a big amount of money in Thailand. And if you look at the market, given the large number of agents, the market share of the top players in this market is well below 5%. And this is very, very unique to this market and very different from markets that many people know, like Singapore, where we looked up the numbers. The top 5 agencies there have an 86% market share, which basically means they run the show. In Thailand, the market is still very mature and very developing, meaning there's huge potential for growth, for companies that deliver a great user experience and operate efficiently, and there's a huge potential to consolidate the market. So let's have a look at where the market is going. 2023, 2024 were rather challenging markets for the real estate industry in Thailand. So after COVID, there was a huge peak, very fast pickup. After that, cooled down a little bit. Right? One or two other factors came in that slowed the market down. One of them is the lending practices of the banks. Thailand has relatively high household debt levels, and while demand for properties in Thailand remained very, very high, the lending practices have become tighter, and so more people have either not received a mortgage or been discouraged from buying a property, and so that has had a negative impact on the market. For 2025, 2027, we consulted our big, snowball, and overall the consensus view is positive. One big factor is that there is an expected consistent GDP growth for Thailand, around 2.9% annually. The real estate market is also expected to step by step come back, recover, and turn into a gradual upturn, driven both by specific programs to address the household debt problem and also by, in general, the market being large and picking up again. Specifically picking out new developments, which is a very big and very relevant chunk of the market in Thailand. It's around $20 billion annually, fluctuating a little bit based on developer activity. But if you remember the 35 billion, it means that more than half of the market is likely in primary sales. And most of these sales are done by in-house developer teams, which is also very different from other markets. In Singapore, for example, where you have strong and very professional agencies, basically no developer does their sales themselves. They all go through agents. In Thailand, developers are much stronger, and the value proposition that agents can offer is still quite limited. So that's why developers do most of the work themselves. This market has also contracted recently. While there's pockets that are working very nicely, for example, higher value developments in Phuket, pool villas. If you pick the largest market of Bangkok Metropolitan, it has seen an 11% drop drop in 2024 based on the second quarter. And what is even more interesting is that there's a strong buildup of unsold units with developers. And if you kind of keep your ears open, you hear more and more news about developers becoming really, really open and keen to sell off their stock very fast. They're becoming open to doing bundle deals. They're becoming open to partnering on projects where they wouldn't have been open before. So overall, this represents a huge opportunity for transaction players who can mobilize a large amount of agents, who can mobilize large networks and drive traffic and sales transactions to support agents to sell off their stock. Big opportunity. Looking at online demand, Thailand is also, in another facet, a very immature and young market. I picked out one metric because I basically put this together on a Sunday afternoon. So the one figure I could find quite quickly is SimilarWeb, right? And I wanted to compare, very, very mature markets with somewhat mature market like Singapore and with Thailand, right? And if you look at markets like Australia, or the US, right, where you have really, really strong brands, really, really, dominating real estate players, you see that Zillow, REA, they are in around the top 10 of the most visited websites in that market. If you look at a market where you have a strong leader like Property Guru in Singapore, right, but which is, notably less mature, you see that it's in the top 100s, right? So Property Guru is number 41 of most visited websites. In Singapore. And then if you look, in contrast to Thailand, right, where we have a portal which is, I would say, leading, definitely, according to most metrics, DD Property, right, but it's in number 326 of the most visited websites, right? So what does that one example tell us? Well, it tells us that, first of all, online demand is scattered. You have many different portals with different positionings, and users typically jump from one portal to another. Secondly is, they're not only going to portals, they're consulting. Facebook Marketplace, they're asking around on social media, hey, who can recommend a property or project where I can live? And last but not least, a lot of the demand is also through informal channels, right? Hey, do you know someone with something to rent out, or you contact an agent that you've worked with, a year ago, and we believe this is all, signs of a very immature market that will consolidate over time, with people gravitating towards the place where they get the best customer service and where they get their problem solved, but it will take time. Similar picture on the demand side. It is quite staggering, but most of the properties you find online are either duplicates or unavailable. So we have a few years of experience, so we did a little bit of number crunching, and we believe that roughly 60 to 70% of the listings that agents post online are duplicates, and that about 80% of the listings that you find online are actually not available. So that means it's a really, really bad user experience. Again, think of booking a hotel room, right? You go to Agoda, you find the hotel room, you book it, done. Think about a property portal. You find the property, you reach out to the agent doesn't get back. Usually the answer is, oh, sorry, it's not available, or it's more expensive than what you thought. It's a really, really bad user experience. And this is one of the key things that we believe can be cracked with lots of work. It's going to be a multi-year effort. We've been 5 years in the game, and we've made some progress, but we're nowhere near where we think we should be. But it's a problem that is solvable, and it's a problem that's worth solving if you look at the market potential in Thailand. So that's our view on the market. Let us have a quick look on 3 things that we're doing to make advance in this market, and to work towards our goal of powering the majority of our real estate transactions in Thailand. And again, it's 3 things. One is, what are we doing to get data and supply right? The second thing is, what are we doing to enable collaboration, which we believe is really key to be successful in a market like Thailand, which is working in a very collaborative way. And last but not least, what are we doing on AI to leverage and improve our business? So for data and supply, I wanted to start with the aspiration. The goal is we want to know every single available property in Thailand with 100% accuracy. And what sounds pretty easy is a very, very difficult job. In Thailand, every landlord typically works with a handful of agents, usually not one, not two, maybe 3 or 4. So all of these agents have the information from the landlord, and then one agent rents out the property, and the other 4 don't know if the property is available or not, right? So how do you solve this? What we've done over the last couple of years is we've focused on connecting all of the sources, everyone who basically has a property to rent or to sell in Thailand, to our platform. So we've connected more than 100,000 landlords. We have connected more than 1,000 supply co-agents who have decided to share their full property inventory with us because they want to co-broke with us by acquiring customers. And we are continuously working with about 1,000 developers to acquire new projects, update information, and make sure that the data in our system is as good as possible. For most of these, we have automated imports, meaning we get real-time updates, but this is not the only solution. The answer is never just technology. For us, it's always a mix of technology with service teams, with creating the right incentives for people to give us this information. In terms of what do we then do is we focus on connecting with each of these individuals regularly, and we at the moment do about 50,000 monthly interactions. They can be recurring interactions, they can be based on user requests. Someone wants to rent a certain property, then we reach out to the landlord. We use all different channels: line, WhatsApp, SMS, or phone call, and we use both automated interactions, but, and that's very important, it's also the agents using our platform, right? So there's nothing more important than an agent actually picking up the phone, talking with the landlord, and verifying if the property is still available. And then we're basically able to generate about 30,000 monthly listing updates from this. We believe that makes us the number 1 in Thailand in terms of freshly updated listing inventory. But of course, that's not the goal. The goal is really to make sure that you have I would say an e-commerce-like experience where you come to PropertyScout, you see a property, and you can right away know what is available and basically directly do a viewing, rather than having still, a relevant share of properties which have been updated recently, but not recently enough, and this is why you might find an unavailable property. What are we doing on collaboration to empower this? So our belief is that we really want to focus on delivering the best user experience. And to do that in a market like Thailand, which is the land of co-broking, we believe it is impossible to achieve this as one standalone company, right? You would need to have 10, 20, 30,000 agents to replicate the entrepreneurship, the creativity, and the local connections that all of these freelance agents have built up. So for us, the answer is we want to build a collaborative platform where we empower agents, where we professionalize them, and where we make sure that they all behave according to guidelines that we define. And so if you look at the market reality, right, most agent intermediate transactions actually involve more than one agent, typically someone representing the demand side, someone representing the sales side. And the flip side of what I said before, of 60 to 70% of the properties posted by agent being duplicates, well, the flip side is that there's still 30 or 40% of properties posted by agents that are actually unique, right? And if you want to deliver the best customer service to people who want to rent or buy, you really want to make sure you have these properties too, and you can fulfill on the promise towards the customer of showing them the best property for their demand. And what we're doing to empower collaboration is, well, first of all, we're constantly working to grow the number of co-agents that are working with us. We have very strict rule in terms of partnering and doing deals with these agents, leading us to do, several thousand transactions with co-agents every year. We've built a specific part of our system specifically for co-agents to allow them to manage their listings and inquiries. And we actively engage in, real estate body engagement. So there's, for example, one body called TREBA, the Thailand Real Estate Brokerage Association, where we try to do our part to professionalize the industry and encourage other agents to play by rules that we try to set as far as possible to deliver a good user experience. Last but not least, on AI, I thought I'd quote Satya Nadella, the Microsoft CEO. He said something which I found really interesting, although it's a bit wordy, but I think it's still really interesting, end of 2024. As AI becomes more capable and agentic, models themselves become more of a commodity, and all value gets created by how you steer, ground, and fine-tune these models with your business data and workflow, and how they compose with the UI layer of human to AI to human interaction. So again, a bit wordy, but I think there's a few very, very smart things in there. One is AI models becoming a commodity. He said it in September 2027. That was before DeepSeek, Manus, and all of the other ones. I think that was a very, very true prediction. The AI is something that's going to be commoditized. And the question is, how are you going to leverage it for your processes? And how are you going to make it smarter by letting it access the data that you have? Second thing is that I really like is the UI layer of human to AI to human interaction. I think Georg said it. AI is doing one thing, but really building a system that results in a tenant or a buyer finding a property faster and being more happy with the interaction, that involves weaving together AI and agents that are managed in classical ways. And this is going to be a game changer, but it's also much more difficult than setting up a cool, standalone AI solution. So against this context, what are we doing in AI? And I would say we do some things, but we are still at the very beginning. We have been investing by allocating a few software developers, but we'll definitely, continue on that path. So the three things that I want to highlight is one, lead qualification, a very obvious case. We've built a small, I would call it version 1.0 chatbot that qualifies our customers. And the main value for us is the following. So we receive tens of thousands of contact requests through direct messaging channels like Line or WhatsApp. And in the past, we've not been able to service them. We lost about 90% of these chats, even though we had, 25 people in our service staff, because we were simply not fast enough to reply to these customers. Now, with AI, we have a solution to engage with these customers, and the majority of these chats actually ends up in leads that get allocated to agents, usually within minutes. By now, about 50% of our leads are already getting qualified by AI, and we're pretty confident that this will increase a lot over time. Second thing is supply. I've put in a small screenshot here, so we do have a content moderation / supply team that's verifying listings, enhancing the information, validating if the location is correct. And we've basically automated most of that using AI. So AI is helping on data structuring. AI is helping on doing short descriptions about the listing. And this has helped us speed up the time to validate listings. And of course, it helped us save cost. Not initially, by the way. Initially, AI was more expensive. But as OpenAI and others kept on dropping their prices, all the time, you see the cost of AI decreasing. So the solution becomes more powerful and the cost decreases. Last but not least, Agent Assistant. That was basically something we hacked together over a weekend. After discussing for a few beers that you should do it, let's try it. So we also have an AI assistant, right? So our agents can, get communication support. They can get support on SOPs and training. And I think it's good, right? It's not great, but it shows that you can make progress very, very fast. And then it's about how do you get agents to consistently use it, right? Agents have it, and still they send out messages, which are not optimal. So how do you encourage them, and how do you weave this into the interaction with the clients to make sure the outcome is really better? That's one thing that's a big focus. So overall, I would say AI. We're very, very bullish on what AI can do, and I would side with, I think Georg said it, actually coming up with a proof of concept AI solution. That's something that typically takes 10 to 20% of the time. Getting it really right, so making sure you cover the outlier cases, you avoid that it does stupid things, and getting your humans to use it to actually deliver better customer experience, this is what usually takes 80% of the time. But we're confident we'll get there, and we're quite excited about the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And it's good to see you're focusing on efficiency, which is, leads on perfectly from the previous two presenters talking about. When you discuss going after low-value transactions in less popular areas, is the planning to work with agents in those areas or to give end users the tools to transact directly?
Yeah, a very good question. I think our first perspective is that real estate transactions generally benefit from having an agent because they are, higher value, perceived higher risk. So we believe having a good agent that helps you take the decision is something that's beneficial. So my answer would be we would always lean towards finding lean solutions to enable agents to help clients, even in lower value transactions.
Okay, now what's your strategy to boost traffic to your own site? It seems like a big opportunity.
Yes, agree. It's the obvious things, right? So we are working on SEO. I think we're, still at the very early stages, I would say. We are actively looking into how we can leverage the unique information that a transaction business has about properties, to show that to clients and draw, user attention. Like all of the knowledge you have about real transaction prices, about actual availability of properties, which you only have if you are in the transaction, interact with landlords. We believe that this, in the end, can make us and transaction players a great destination for people to find relevant info.
Okay. Now, how do you efficiently source landlords and property details for rentals or purchases? What channels or methods do you use to gather this information?
Okay, a good question. So I explained it on the slide about supply and data, right? So the key is really to work with everyone who has a property to rent or sell. So you need to connect with the landlords, with co-agents, and with developers, and that's what we did. And then we use both, teams to actually pick up the phone and talk to people where needed, and everything that we can automate, we try to automate because a landlord doesn't always have to, tell you on the phone if the price has been changed or if the listing is not available anymore. He can also do that in electronic ways.
Okay. What are your thoughts on the rental market as a standalone sector from a real estate exchange perspective? Is it substantial enough to focus on exclusively, and can rental brokerage be a profitable business on its own?
Okay, good question. We are big fans of the rental market. This is where PropertyScout started. So we started, before COVID, and then we focused on long-term rentals during COVID, and we managed to grow quite nicely, where I think sales, was a bit challenged during that time. So we believe in that market. Thailand is a rental nation, and given fast transaction cycles, and I think, decent transaction values, for example, in Bangkok Metro, I think it's a good market to focus on. Whether you're able to build, a very, very strong, very big business with only rentals, I'm not sure. There's certain synergies between rentals and sales for sure, but I think it's a great market. I'm a big fan of rentals.
Okay. How did you approach the early days of creating a multi-year strategy to fight duplicates and fake listings? To what extent has that strategy changed over time?
Okay, well, also a good question. Look, I've worked for many years with a property portal in Germany, Immobilienscout24, and my belief is that it's both about quantity and about quality, right? So if you want to rent or buy a property, you want to go to one place where you have the conviction that you have transparency about the market, right? Which is why I don't believe that only having a curated set of listings in the end is what you should strive for. You should always strive to have all of the listings in the market. But especially in the Thai market, just taking listings is not the right thing, right? So we could put up 500,000 listings on our website. It wouldn't help the users because the listings would not be helpful. So I think our view has changed over time in that we've become increasingly convinced that focusing on quality is really, really important. Based on the user feedback, based on our own experiences of how many unavailable listings are there in the market, we believe it's really critical, and if in doubt, rather decide not to publish a listing than to publish it to make sure that you do not disappoint the users.
Okay, and then one last question. Do you believe in rental or sales transactions being fully automated with AI agents without any of us involved at all? I assume we get to live in at the end, but that's about it.
I would say it's a question of the time frame. I think in the foreseeable future, the answer is no. Again, because buying, especially buying a property, is a high involvement, high risk transaction. It can either, make you rich or it can ruin you for life. And we don't believe that people will be willing to take this decision without having the comfort of an additional perspective from a human talking to them. So our main focus for the foreseeable future is not at replacing agents, it's at empowering and supporting agents using technology and AI.
Okay. Marco, thank you very much. I love what you guys are doing and well done.
Thank you.
Well done. Excellent. I'll take that. Great. Thank you.